Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us in this year's memorial service honoring the men who proudly served on USS Thresher, SSN 593. I'm Gary Hildreth, past base commander for Thresher Base, United States Submarine Veterans, and honored to be your master of ceremonies this afternoon. We who proudly wear the gold and silver dolphins of the submarine service can think of no better way to honor and remember Thresher sailors and the civilian technicians and mechanics who rode her that day, than to once again gather at this time in their memory. When a new chapter of United States Submarine Veterans was organized in 1989, those charter members, in their infinite wisdom, decided to honor the memory of their shipmates in USS Thresher by naming the base for Thresher. And as members of United States Submarine Veterans, we live by a creed that states, to perpetuate the memory of our shipmates who gave their lives in the pursuit of duties while serving their country, that their dedication, deeds, and supreme sacrifice be a constant source of motivation toward greater accomplishments. We pledge loyalty and patriotism to the United States of America and its Constitution. Please rise for the parading of the colors, Pledge of Allegiance, and the singing of our national anthem. Color Guard, parade the colors. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Lori Arsenal and Deb will now sing our national anthem, and they encourage you to join in. Color Guard, retire the colors. Lieutenant J.G. Philip Stevens, Navy Chaplain, will now deliver the invocation.
Let us pray. All merciful God, 49 years ago today, we were humbly reminded of the teaching in your word of Proverbs 21:31. The horse is prepared for battle, but safety is of the Lord. Today we gather to memorialize those aboard the USS Thresher and acknowledge their sacrifice, that it was not in vain. Because they sacrificed their tomorrow, thousands of submariners continue to operate and return home safely today. As we pay tribute to their honorable lives today, we ask that you'll guide our thoughts and words to respectfully remember them. For the friends, family, and loved ones here today, of those who lost loved ones on the Thresher, I ask that you'll comfort and strengthen their hearts. For we ask these things in your name. Amen.
Please be seated. First and foremost, I would like to welcome our special guest today, Miss Joy Macmillan, daughter of Chief Radioman Walter Jack Nunes. Joy, we know this ceremony has a special meaning to you and your family. Your participation here today makes this even more special for us. Thank you. Former Thresher crew member, Lieutenant Commander Fern Wagner. Commander, thank you for being here today as we honor your shipmates and friends. We look forward to your shared thoughts. Captain Bryant Fuller, 83rd Shipyard Commander, Portsmouth Naval Shipyard. Captain, thank you, sir, for your leadership and guidance at the shipyard. Your presence here today and commitment to people, processes, and standards solidifies our purpose with this memorial service. And Vice Admiral Kevin McCoy. Admiral, your distinguished service to your country and the United States Navy speaks clearly of your honor and dedication to the men and women who build, maintain, and man our ships today. Thank you for accepting our invitation to be this year's keynote speaker. In the audience, it gives me a great deal of pleasure to recognize various groups who have joined us today. Family members of those who sailed on Thresher, former Thresher crew members, members of numerous submarine veterans and submarine veterans of World War II organizations, officers and crew of the submarines presently undergoing overhaul here at Portsmouth Naval Shipyard, officers, staff, and employees of Portsmouth Naval Shipyard, and a very proud and dedicated youth leadership organization, the Young Marines. Thank you for all attending. I also understand that we have a number of new families and friends that are joining us today for the first time. Welcome, and thank you for coming. Unable to join us today, but recognizing the significance of this memorial service, United States Senator Kelly Ayotte and Commander Submarine Force U.S. Pacific Fleet Rear Admiral James F. Caldwell, Jr. have sent along letters that I will now share with you. Dear Thresher families, please convey my thoughts to the family, friends, and former crew members of USS Thresher, SSN 593, who are gathering to honor those who were lost on 10 April 1963. It was a devastating event that our sailors, personnel, their families, and the nation endured that day. We lost our men on USS Thresher. Their deaths were not in vain. The sacrifices of the crew have strengthened the safety of our submarine force and ensured our sailors are kept out of harm's way today. God willing, no other sailor, worker, or family will suffer what Thresher sailors and families went through years ago. On behalf of the United States Pacific Submarine Force, I would like to say that submariners of today and the future will never forget our debt to the men of the USS Thresher. Warm regards, J.F. Caldwell, Jr., Rear Admiral, United States Navy. Dear friends, This day provides an occasion to demonstrate solemn reverence for the 129 sailors and civilian technicians of the USS Thresher who lost their lives pioneering technology in the defense of our great nation. We call to mind the heroism of those who died while on duty and their willingness to serve a cause greater than themselves. With their deep sense of patriotism and a firm commitment to the values that make the United States a beacon of freedom, the crew of USS Thresher are properly remembered as heroes. Even in making the ultimate sacrifice, the crew of 129 inspired innovation. From the failed attempt to recover the USS Thresher, the United States Navy realized the limits of its deep ocean access capabilities. This realization spurred and redoubled research and development of deep dive technologies that continue to aid in the protection of the United States and her fighting men and women today. As we take time together with our friends and neighbors to once again acknowledge the praiseworthy contributions of these fallen heroes, we also turn our thoughts to the men and women currently serving in our armed forces and to their families. We affirm our commitment to supporting their noble service and pray for their safe return. Sincerely, Kelly Ayotte, United States Senator. Our first guest speaker this afternoon is Captain Bryant Fuller. Captain Fuller reigns from Tennessee and entered the United States Navy in June 1985. He has served aboard guided missile destroyer USS Charles F. Adams, where he qualified as a surface warfare officer, and Trident submarine USS West Virginia, where he earned his submarine engineering duty officer dolphins. He earned a Master of Science degree in mechanical engineering at the Naval Postgraduate School and has served in many capacities throughout the nation's shipyards. On October 9, 2009, Captain Fuller assumed command of America's oldest continuously operating naval shipyard, Portsmouth Naval Shipyard. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming to the podium Captain L. Bryant Fuller, 83rd Commander, Portsmouth Naval Shipyard.
Thanks, Gary. Good afternoon. Thresher families, friends, and past crew members, Vice Admiral McCoy, Thresher base members, submarine veterans, shipmates, distinguished community leaders, ladies and gentlemen. I'm honored to stand here before you today and grateful to the submarine veterans that have invited me to participate in this very special commemoration of the lives that were lost on the USS Thresher. I'm equally confident to assure you that we have not forgotten the 129 heroes who sailed on the USS Thresher on April 10, 1963. As shipyard commander, I've been privileged to work alongside some of the finest sailors, engineers, and craftspeople in this nation has to offer. They too have not forgotten the ultimate sacrifice these men paid for the freedoms that we enjoy today. For those with ties to the Portsmouth area and those in the submarine business, the connections to that ever-receding day have a closeness that seems to never change, to come back and reconnect us with us in sobering ways. How we respond to those connections, how we resolve to do our part to prevent another Thresher, is part of our culture and our heritage that is relevant to each and every one of us here at Portsmouth. From the newest apprentice on the deck plates, on the shop floors, to myself as a shipyard commander, the loss of the Thresher and her crew, the civilians from Sperry and Raytheon, and the civilians from Portsmouth Naval Shipyard that sailed on her, still pervades our hearts and minds. Not a day passes that we don't work just a little harder, just a little smarter to ensure that our work is of the highest quality, to keep them safe. It's the people at this shipyard. To the people of this shipyard, it's very personal. It's not just that the price of failure is too high, it's totally unacceptable, it's unfathomable. Our tradition of handing down trade experience from one generation to the next helps ensure the quality of our product today. It is a hallmark of excellence and admiration of the fleet. It's a testimony to those who paid the ultimate sacrifice and those who vowed never again. Thank you so much for attending today as we pay tribute to these American heroes.
Thank you, Captain. Our second speaker this afternoon is Miss Joy McMillan, daughter of Chief Ratingman Walter Jack Nunes, United States Navy. Ms. McMillan is the second of 4 children and has accepted our invitation to share her few thoughts today. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Joy McMillan.
Today we are here to share our memories. Our brains store our memories like a supercomputer stores data. Certain things will trigger memories. My memories of my dad are categorized by flowers. Daddy Jack was at sea for long stretches of time. When I was 5, I was playing at my friend Sheila McDonough's house, and we were on our swing set, and I had just picked a big bouquet of dandelions from the swing set leg, and I spotted my Daddy Jack coming back from sea, wheeling me over a brand new sparkling 2-wheeler bike. I threw my dandelions in the air, and they landed like yellow rain. And I think of my dad when I think of the dandelions. I was 6 years old on April 10th, 1963. I was in bed asleep, but I woke up to loud voices and crying. My mother was devastated over the news. I can remember going out to the kitchen and spying a large vase of forsythia. My aunt was trying to keep me distracted by letting me eat a snack pack of sugar pops with milk poured right into the box. Everything else about that night is very hard for me to think about, and it's hazy. But each April, I remember that night when the forsythias bloom. After the news of the Thresher implosion, I spent a few days with my best friend Sheila at her house next door. I recall seeing so many large vases coming through into my home. They were all sprays of gladiolas being delivered to my house. And there were so many cars parked out in front. It was so hard to get the concept of why so many people were there and why the flowers were at my house and why was Mommy crying. To this day, I detest gladiolas. They symbolize death to me. As I grew, so did my perception that Daddy was not ever coming back. But like many in my situation, my imagination was my best friend. I used to dream that he would come back. I would ride my bike the 1/4 mile down to Jenness Beach. And I would have a freshly picked bouquet of purple vinca in my hand. The Isles of Shoals were always there waiting. That island looked like a submarine with that conning tower coming right out of the water. Oh, that reminded me of Daddy, and I would hurl my little purple flowers into the water in hopes that they would reach my dad. My imagination allowed me to dream that Daddy had survived the implosion, but hit his head and had amnesia, so he couldn't remember who we were, and that I would just meet up with him someday in Europe, and that would restore his memory. As the waves took my flowers out to sea, the familiar pangs of grief would pull, just like the tide. Today, I have purple vinca growing in my yard, and they remind me of hope. Over the last 49 years of these ceremonies for the Thresher, roses are the central flower that come to mind. They are given to survivors as are symbols of our strength. I have a poem that I've always treasured, and I will share, but the author is only known by her first name, Elizabeth. A rose, a lovely rose with petals soft, a scent so sweet and light, so beautiful, a flower with colors shining bright. But something not so savory about the fragrant rose, the thorns so sharp upon the stem that sharpen as it grows. Yet still lovely is the flower, despite the thorns that stick. Do not fear. To live or love, life's not exempt from pain. So pick a rose, you may get hurt, but you will also gain. You have heard how my dad gave his life, and that has been a thorny path for my family. My mother persevered through the agony of losing her husband and leaving 4 young children without their dad. The deaths of these men brought about SubSafe program. SubSafe cut the thorns off future submarines. I hold my rose proudly, and I think of you, Daddy Jack.
Thank you, Joy. Today, we also had the pleasure of hearing from Lieutenant Commander Fern Wagner, United States Navy, retired. Commander Wagner was born in Pottstown, Pennsylvania, and while a junior in high school, joined the Naval Reserve. During his naval career, he served aboard dock landing ship USS Rushmore, submarines USS Sea Owl, USS Sea Dragon, USS Thresher, and USS Haddo, and submarine tenders USS Fulton and USS Hunley. When not stationed aboard ship, Commander Wagner served at a multitude of short commands around the world, including 2 tours in Vietnam. Commander Wagner retired from naval service in 1974, and after